do a little pond hopping, Frog?
Oh, swell.
For every hero car that survives to end up in a museum, 10 others are sacrificed to the movie gods. We aren't talking about generic traffic jams or background vehicles today. We're talking about the stars, the specific VIN-numbered legends that were driven hard, jumped, and ultimately destroyed to get the shot. From Steve McQueen's final ride to the Trans Am that defined a generation. These are the 10 hero cars that didn't make it out alive. Today we're digging through the graveyard of Hollywood history to uncover 10 famous movie cars that were destroyed forever, and the insane stories of how they met their end. Let's get into it. Number 10. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider replica. We start with a death that hurt the soul of every car enthusiast who watched it. The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider is one of the most beautiful and expensive cars ever made. In the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the car is treated like a holy relic, until that heart-stopping moment when it reverses through the glass wall of the garage and plummets into the ravine below. Here is the reality behind the crash. Director John Hughes knew he couldn't destroy a real Ferrari. Even in the 1980s, a real California Spider was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today, they are worth nearly $20 million. So, the production commissioned a company called Medina Design to build 3 replicas. They used a Ford V8 engine and a fiberglass body mounted on a custom chassis. 3 cars were built, 2 for driving and stunt work, and 1 hero shell specifically designed to die. The car that went out the window had no engine and no transmission. It was essentially a beautifully painted fiberglass shell. However, the destruction didn't go exactly to plan. When the crew rigged the car to roll out of the garage, it failed to hit the target landing spot. It took multiple takes and significant damage to the set to finally get that iconic shot of the nose diving into the dirt. While no real Ferrari was harmed, the replica itself became a legend. Years later, the shattered remains of that stunt car were actually pieced back together and sold at auction. It was a fake car, but the death was very real. Number 9. Spectre, the Aston Martin DB10. Usually, when a movie destroys a car, they are destroying something you can go out and buy at a dealership. But for the James Bond film Spectre, Aston Martin did something unprecedented. They built a car that didn't exist in the real world, just so Bond could wreck it. This is the Aston Martin DB10. It was never sold to the public. It was a bespoke prototype built exclusively for the film to showcase the future design language of the brand. Aston Martin manufactured exactly 10 of these vehicles. They were hand-built, high-performance masterpieces. By the time filming wrapped, 7 of the 10 cars were total write-offs. They were jumped, drifted into walls, and in the film's climax, the hero car is famously equipped with an ejector seat. Bond ejects, and the DB10 drives itself into the Tiber River in Rome, sinking to the bottom. That wasn't CGI. They literally sank a priceless, one-of-a-kind prototype into the river. The cost of this destruction is hard to calculate because the car had no sticker price. It was priceless. Only one of the surviving DB10s was ever sold to a private collector, fetching over $3 million. The rest, twisted metal and waterlogged leather, sacrificed for a few minutes of screen time. Number 8. Casino Royale, the Aston Martin DBS. Sticking with Bond for a moment, we have to talk about the Guinness World Record holder for a car destruction. In Casino Royale, the script called for Bond to swerve his Aston Martin DBS to avoid Vesper Lynd, flipping the car violently. The stunt team ran into a major problem. The Aston Martin DBS was too good. The car's suspension and aerodynamics were so stable that when the stunt driver hit the ramp at 70 miles per hour, the car wouldn't flip. It just landed and kept driving. They tried again. Same result. The car refused to die. So the special effects team brought in the heavy artillery. They installed a nitrogen-powered air cannon into the chassis of the car. This is a piston that fires downward into the asphalt with explosive force. On the next take, the driver hit the button. The cannon fired and the DBS launched into the air, rolling 7 full times. A world record for a production car assisted by a cannon. The car was utterly obliterated. In fact, the production destroyed 3 brand new DBS prototypes worth $300,000 each just to get that one shot. It is arguably the most violent death of a luxury car in cinema history. Number 7. The Italian Job 1969, the Lamborghini Mira P400. If you're a purist, look away now. The opening sequence of the 1969 classic The Italian Job features a gorgeous bright orange Lamborghini Mira driving through the Great St. Bernard Pass in the Alps. It is automotive poetry, and then it enters a tunnel, hits a bulldozer, and is unceremoniously pushed off a cliff. For decades, fans prayed that this was a fake. They hoped it was a kit car. But the truth is more painful. The production couldn't afford a new Mira, so they found a compromise. They approached Lamborghini, who had a Mira P400 that had been in a serious accident. The engine was removed, but the bodywork, the chassis, and the interior were all real Lamborghini factory parts. They patched up the bodywork to look pristine, towed it to the Alps, and pushed it over the edge. As the car tumbled down the ravine, body panels flew off and the chassis twisted into a pretzel. The crew went down to retrieve the wreckage, but, and this is a true story, they couldn't find all the pieces. To this day, parts of a real 1968 Lamborghini Mira are likely still rusting somewhere at the bottom of that Italian ravine. Number 6. Fast 5, the 1963 Corvette Grand Sport. We mentioned this briefly in a previous video, but it deserves a spot on the hero death list because of the sheer audacity of the stunt. In Fast 5, Vin Diesel and Paul Walker drive a 1963 Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport out of a moving train and launch it off a cliff into the Colorado River. Now, a real Grand Sport is a unicorn. Only 5 were ever made, and they are worth between $6 and $10 million each. Obviously, the production didn't destroy a real one, but they didn't use cheap junk either. They hired Mongoose Motorsports, a premier replica builder, to create highly detailed stunt cars for the sequence. These weren't flimsy props, they were tubular chassis performance cars with Volkswagen engines for the off-road work and V8s for the street work. For the cliff jump, they used an air cannon, similar to Casino Royale, to launch the car into the canyon. The car hits the water with such force that it disintegrates. While it wasn't a $10 million original, watching a $40,000 professional build get turned into fiberglass confetti is still a tearjerker for any Corvette fan. Number 5. Furious 7, the Lykan Hypersport. While Fast 5 destroyed replicas, Furious 7 destroyed something much rarer. The Lykan Hypersport is one of the most exclusive cars on the planet. Priced at $3.4 million, it features headlights encrusted with real diamonds and a holographic display system. In the movie, the car is housed in a penthouse in Abu Dhabi before being jumped through not 1 but 2 skyscrapers. W Motors, the manufacturer, actually collaborated with the film crew. Since they couldn't destroy the original development prototypes, W Motors built 10 stunt cars specifically for the movie. These stunt cars were made using the same molds as the $3.4 million Hero, but they swapped the carbon fiber for fiberglass and the flat-6 engine for a Porsche Boxster powertrain. While they weren't gem-encrusted, they were still incredibly expensive, factory-built machines. By the end of production, all 10 stunt cars were wrecked. The jump sequence alone destroyed several of them as they crashed into the set pieces representing the glass windows. The only surviving Lykan from the movie is the battered Hero car, which still bears the scars of production. Number 4. The Hunter 1979 Pontiac Trans Am. Now we get into the heavy hitters, the specific requests from true car movie buffs. Steve McQueen is known for Bullitt, where the Mustang survived, but in his final movie, The Hunter, his car wasn't so lucky. McQueen plays a bounty hunter who drives a rental 1979 Pontiac Trans Am, but McQueen being McQueen, he drove it like he stole it. Throughout the film, the Trans Am is abused, curbed, and beaten, but the finale is where the heart of the car lover breaks. The villain steals the Trans Am and drives it into a cornfield. He lights a stick of dynamite and tosses it into the front seat. The explosion is massive. This wasn't a model. This wasn't a trick. They literally blew up a brand new 1979 Trans Am to pieces. The hood flies hundreds of feet into the air. It was a symbolic end for McQueen's career, as he passed away shortly after the film's release. The destruction of that Trans Am marked the end of the McQueen era of car chases. It was final, it was loud, and there was absolutely nothing left of the car to restore. Number 3. Mad Max 2 The Road Warrior, the V8 Interceptor. If there is one car that defines the post-apocalyptic genre, it is Max Rockatansky's last of the V8 Interceptors, a modified 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT. In the first movie, the car survives, but in The Road Warrior, director George Miller decided that to break Max, he had to break his car. In the film, Max is run off the road by the Marauders. The car flips into a ditch. As the villains approach to steal the fuel, the body trap triggers. The massive fuel tanks in the back explode, turning the most iconic car in Australian cinema history into a burning pile of scrap. The production used two cars for The Road Warrior. The hero car, the one used for close-ups, was spared from the explosion, but the stunt car was utterly destroyed. However, the impact on the audience was devastating. Seeing the Interceptor burn felt like watching a main character die. It stripped Max of his armor and forced him to fight on foot. While the hero car eventually ended up in a museum, the stunt double that met its fiery end in the Australian outback is dust in the wind. Number 2. Smokey and the Bandit, 1977 Pontiac Trans Am. Now we arrive at the tragedy that haunts Pontiac fans. Smokey and the Bandit made the black and gold Trans Am the most popular car in America. You would think the studio would have preserved the cars that made them millions. Well, you would be wrong. Director Hal Needham asked Pontiac for 6 cars and 4 police cruisers. Pontiac, sensing a flop, only gave him 4 Trans Ams and 2 Le Mans sedans. That was it. 4 cars to film the entire movie. The abuse these cars took is legendary. The famous jump over the Mulberry Bridge that completely destroyed the car on landing. The frame snapped and the car was dead on impact. By the end of the shot, they had cannibalized parts from all 4 cars just to keep one running. In the final scene where the Bandit and Frog drive off into the sunset, the car wasn't even running. The engine had blown. It was being pushed from behind by another vehicle that was out of the camera frame. And here's the sad part, none of them survived. After filming wrapped, GM mandated that all 4 cars be crushed for liability reasons. They were worried that if they sold these battered stunt cars, someone would get hurt. So the original 4 Bandits, the cars that started a revolution, were turned into cubes of scrap metal. Number 1. Vanishing Point, 1970 Dodge Challenger RT. And finally, the number 1 spot goes to the most existential, deliberate, and heartbreaking car death in cinema history, Vanishing Point. The movie is essentially a love letter to the 1970 Dodge Challenger RT. It's alpine white, it's supercharged, and it's driven by Kowalski across the American West. Chrysler loaned the studio 5 white Challengers for the production. These cars were driven hard, no CGI, no speed-ups. Just pure 440 Magnum power tearing up the desert. But the ending of the movie requires the ultimate sacrifice. Kowalski, seeing the police blockade of 2 bulldozers, doesn't slow down, he accelerates. The car slams into the blades of the bulldozers at nearly 100 miles per hour. It is instant annihilation. Now, there is a small comfort for the purists here. By the time they filmed the final crash, the 5 hero Challengers were so beaten up that they were barely running. But the car that actually hits the bulldozers, that was a 1967 Chevy Camaro shell filled with explosives. The production towed the Camaro with a 1/4 mile of cable into the bulldozers. However, don't let that fool you. The 5 hero Challengers were effectively destroyed by the production process. They were jump tested until the suspensions collapsed and run until the engine seized. After filming, the surviving shells were reportedly scrapped by Chrysler, just like the Trans Ams in Smokey and the Bandit. The white Challenger didn't just die on the script, it died in real life, taking its place as the ultimate martyr of the car movie genre. From the crushed Trans Ams of the 70s to the submerged Aston Martins of today, Hollywood has a habit of killing the things we love. Which one of these losses hurts you the most? Is it the Bandit's Trans Am or the tragic end of the DB10? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want more stories about the metal heroes of cinema, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Drive safe, and we'll see you in the next one.